they were asked about the VJ grading and slabbing of new games and what you thought about that. Obviously, it's a general question. I think it's for mainly profiteers. If you ask me, there's no reason that you need to own. First off, anything new in the past 10 years, there are tons of sealed versions of, whether they're toys, whether they're games, whatever. The value of sealed stuff, as people realize it's a collectible market, plummets because people don't open them anymore.
Right.
So getting something sealed doesn't raise the value anymore.
Not always, yeah.
So, for example, like there's people that collect. Say for example, there's a Wii U game that comes out. It's sealed. You get it slabbed. Who's getting it slabbed? There could be a person that gets it slabbed because they like having their game in a case. Okay.
Could be a fan of the series.
That could happen, sure. But that's not going to be the majority. The majority of people that are going to do it are going to get that game that costs them $50. They're going to pay the $30 or $40 it is to get it slabbed and try to sell it for $300, $400 and make a $200 profit on it. That's supposed to be most of it.
I think you're seeing very unintelligent speculation with that. You know, you hear stories about games like Xenoblade Chronicles. Okay, GameStop's only going to carry it, and it's going to be limited, so get your copy now. So people will go out and they'll look for games, and you know they'll try to guess. Because I even see it in the store. People will try to guess. You know, this game's going to get a low print run. You know, people will come in and if we get in like a batch of like a new Atlas game or something, you know, for the 3DS or the PS whatever, you know. There's this constant idea that Atlas games are in super low supply. They're not really. Some of them are, and they will kind of like think about it. And I've had people buy games based on what they think the rarity is going to be in the future. Which means I think a lot of the people who are slabbing these are looking at a game and simply without looking at numbers necessarily are going, that's something that's going to be desired in the future. We're going to buy it and slab it.
What are they doing? Game voodoo? How do they know? And plus, don't they realize if they're thinking that, there's 1,000 other people that are thinking the exact same thing?
Which is why when people, because the people definitely tried to do it at Luna, when people were buying up multiple copies of the special edition of Shin Megami Tensei 4 for the 3DS, you can still get it for, I'm pretty sure, last I checked, you can still get the special edition for the brand new price of $50 on eBay because a bunch of speculators bought up all these copies thinking it was going to be the next $300 Atlas game, and they're just sitting there. So,
I always say, now, if you talk about investing in old games, at least you can be like, okay, at least it's limited, and I know it's limited. And
right. But you have no idea what the limits are now.
No, you don't. And plus, again, everyone else is doing it. So it's like when you see a commercial for, get the limited edition Star Trek collector's plates. And it's like, whoa, wow. They're not limited if they're advertising it to the entire U.S. to buy them.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to buy them and keep them thinking that they're limited when they're not. So the value is not going to go anywhere.
You know, I would say to, people listening, it's fun to try this sometimes. But think of like a really rare game that's come out within the past 8 years or so. Something that you can't get your hands on readily, like a Yakuza 1 or 2 or something like that. And, do a Google search. And a lot of times you're going to wade through more sealed copies than you are open used copies because people are sitting on these things and speculating.
Yeah. Waiting. So again, if you want to get a game sealed, if you like the series, like how it looks, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I would not invest money on trying to get into a new sealed game market. It doesn't make any sense. Invest that money in something, I don't know, I don't care if it's a 401k or IRA or stock market, that makes a hell of a lot more sense than investing it into a PS4 game you get slabbed.
It's minor, but it sort of touches back to what we were talking about before with like the amiibos and scalping and stuff.
And no added value.
Yeah, no added value. If something is still in production, why? Until you know that it's running dry or something. I just think it's dumb to speculate on things that they can produce more of, that they haven't officially discontinued, that is still going to be in production.
Plus it's never going to be thrown out. This new stuff's never going to be thrown out like it was 20 years ago. Everything's kept nowadays.
Yes, including every fucking Madden ever made.
Exactly.
Yeah, because now everyone thinks every video game is going to be.
It happened with baseball cards. Once baseball cards got big in the 90s in comic books. You see, I went to the swap meet today. I literally saw someone that had like 50 copies of Secret Wars #1. You remember the Valiant comic?
Yeah.
From I say 93. There was 50 copies of that. Thinking probably, well, this is going to go up in the future. This wasn't from an old store. This is someone thinking, I'm going to get rich off this.
Yeah.
And now they're not worth the paper they're printed on.
No.
You know what I mean? They spent whatever they were back then, $2 a piece, and now they've lost all that money. Think about how many people did that.
Yeah.
And for toys in the 90s, and Star Trek Next Generation figures, bring up Star Trek again for some reason. It's the 5th time of the show. I don't know, I'm watching it on Netflix. But yeah, just don't do it. Just stay away from it if you're doing it for an investment. There's so many other things to invest your money in.
Yeah, I've had people tell me that they're buying 2 copies of a game, one to play, one to hold on to, because they think it's going to be worth something. And I'm like, just buy a different fucking game.
Yeah, that's
double your fun, double your enjoyment. Fucking buy a different game instead of just worrying about if you're going to make... Because really, here's the thing. When you flip a game for $200, now I'm not trying to say $200 isn't... I mean, it's a lot of money to me sometimes, but in the grand scheme of things, what are you really making off of that? $200 is not generally...
Well, that's if they do make that. And
if
they slab other games, they're not making anything.
You're right.
They're losing money.
Yeah, they're losing money all around. So, I mean, the profit margin on all but the most rare of this stuff is generally quite low. Especially, say you do get $200 for this game. You paid $60 for it. I mean, it's $140 5 years down the road. The
only people that really win in the end for grading new games is the VGA people.
Yeah. Stop giving those fuckers your money.
They're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, they're not your friends. They think you're a fucking asshole.